How would someone deal with being estranged from their family or just not being accepted by their family?
Man, that's big right now, isn't it? It's a huge, both social, spiritual, and I'm going to say, because I think that we're in a huge evolutionary push, that people are smarter and wiser than we ever were in my generation. And it is really difficult to have your parents or your grandparents accept who you are. It always was to some extent, but I think it's speeding up a little bit. And I was the generation that loved Elvis Presley and rock and roll, and we were told we were going to be, that's devil music, we were going to hell. I thought about that a little bit, and I still listened. I'm really proud of any generation that tries out new stuff, because your brain wants to stretch and grow. But the question is how to handle it. And you won't be able to do this, but here's what I want to say. Stay on your path. Turn your back and walk away, because in half of the families, you'll look back someday and they will be right behind you. So if you can stand that sense of not being accepted, not being honored, trans community, the queer community is really working with that. Good for them. You stretch yourself, you find out who you are, and fight like, hell for that.
How do you not make your family not accepting you about your self-worth?
That is a great question. And the $100 million, trillion, bazillion dollar question. Because we just think about it. You're born and you're moving into toddler and middle school, and you're forming an impression of who am I? Who am I? And am I a good person or am I a bad person? Am I a smart person? Am I a talented person? Who am I? And all of a sudden, somewhere in your teens, you're supposed to not care about from the very first instant what somebody thinks about you. You can't do it. You will care. You will care. And honoring that you're caring, and finding the people who are honoring who you are today and sticking with you. You just slowly begin to turn your mirroring, they call it in the books, we will call it getting reflected back like a mirror, so that you can begin to experiment with who you are. It may come from your parents. It might come from your grandmother. Being a grandmother, I can say that. Or your grandfather. You find somebody that can honor you, and you pay attention to that. And stop the yearning as best you can, or the making up stories about what you can't have. Soon as you can, stop that. Let them come. Your adult parents are worried, probably in a good family, about whether or not you're safe, whether or not what kind of trouble you're going to hit in the future, and they're probably saying all the wrong things. Honor their struggle and take your need to be reflected back into your own hands, and find somebody that will.
Can you speak on how it's a reflection of are parents wounding that affects their ability to love and accept their children?
Oh, yeah. Sounds like you had some therapy. Yes, I can speak to that. Too many parents have a child because they want somebody to love them. And what you have to realize is that they probably don't feel loved either. This could be generational. This could be really way down a historic part of your family. I think about the woundingness of parents who have been abused, sexually abused, or physically abused, and weren't allowed to talk about it, and never thought to even think about it or tell anybody about it. Now that's like a big glob in the center of their stomachs and their hearts, and they're trying to love you around that. And I'm not saying you have to understand your parents. I'm saying don't take it personally. The big glob is not you. This could be historical. This could be in their lifetime. It is so not personal. I often think about the trans community and how you brave people that are beginning to identify who you are for real, how your parent might have wanted to do that, and they feel ashamed about that. And so they shame you, criticize you. You have to be the one that has the clarity. Get help and talk about it. Talk about it. Find the people who will reflect you.
So good. In this workshop I went to this weekend,
Oh, yeah.
while she was channeling,
Yes.
somebody asked a question about people who identify as non-binary,
Mm-hmm.
and the response was, and so I'm going to ask you what you, just to elaborate on what your thoughts are, that these souls more and more are coming in, and more will continue to come in because they are identifying as the oneness that we really are.
Bingo.
Beyond,
Mhm.
on a soul level, we're not masculine or feminine or male or female.
We are not.
And so they're coming in to help teach us and lead us
Whoa, that was a good one.
to have that understanding about ourselves.
If it's true that a soul comes in to learn lessons for its release into the oneness that is called nirvana or is called heaven or has any kind of name, if that's true, and I think it is, but everybody doesn't agree with that, that's okay. But if it's true, of course we came in with all kinds of soul lessons, and of course they'll be advanced. It's like, man, to come in and learn how to live as a female that was supposed to get married at 19 and have a certain number of kids and not ever want anything. I love this age where I'm watching the brilliance of evolution. So now they come in as non-binary because you have a gender, but that is not necessarily who you are. So you have a soul, not only lesson for your soul, but you are also carrying the archetypical soul of the planet. So that you have to deal with what is put in front of you and change your mind anytime you want to and live whichever way you want to. Try it out because you're putting energy out into the universe that helps us all survive and grow and learn. Yes, it's a soul choice. And your gender is a choice. And there are many of us who knew that and didn't dare say it. You are brave, brave, brave. Growing older is such a gift. And we are timeless. If we could get our physical, Western and Eastern medicine has taken care of that for us and continues to. Follow your health plan and do what's best for you. And I also say, listen to Western medicine. It's God-given also. Then I say, that's body. Then you have got to do, like we were talking about in the last thing, you got to attend to your emotional life. Who are you? Your identity. Let it change. I'm struggling with that too. I don't mind telling you that. Let yourself change. 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 Take in new. Grow. Be excited, interested, involved. And then you've got the spiritual. And you cannot just accept anymore what was told to you to believe or to do. You have got to search. We're all searching. And the search is so much fun. And the search is so exciting. And the search brings me closer to these two people that are sitting over here. We are years and years between us, and I feel like we're totally good friends and equals. Because the search is exciting and fun. Don't sit down and never stop. Getting old is the best thing that ever happened to me.
I love that. And what's coming up for me, I was thinking about how, in the past, 100 years ago, people were living to the age of 40. I might be making that up.
Yeah.
Whenever it was, people were living to the age of 40, right? And then would pass, transition, and then if we are believing in reincarnation inside of this space container today, would then reincarnate into a new soul and be able to choose a different experience.
Yes, that is what I believe.
Now we are living to 100, so it's like we get more opportunities in one lifetime to reincarnate or to experience different parts of ourselves.
Yes. We do more than one lifetime in one body.
Yes. Ooh, I love that. And can you speak to that from a level of the Haura?
Mm-hmm. The Haura is, I have to be sure to say it because my southern accent has me put a weird ending to it, but it's H-A-R-A. It's Haura. That's the line of spiritual and physical and emotional intent that you took on for this lifetime. Your soul chose what it was going to be like. Because of the wonders of medicine and health, the interest these days, we are living more than one intention, more than one Haura, over and over again in one physical body. It's difficult when one fades and a new one comes in, but at the same time, you can get to a place where you don't mind the discomfort and the pain. It's not like it's okay. I don't know for sure how to express this, but you know what's happening and you are willing to do it. I guess it's more like that. I want to. I'm willing. And it takes many, many spiritual lifetimes in one body and one seemingly lifetime to bring you to some sort of spiritual intelligence or spiritual wisdom. What's the words that I'm searching for? And that's the way it is now. And you guys are very, very honored to know this and to be able to do this. You want to live your life. And you want to live your pain. And you want to live your happiness. And you want to live with broken expectations. And you want to put new expectations in there. And you want to get it right. And you want to get it wrong. And turn the corner and go the other way. It's life. It's hard, and it's ecstatically wonderful, both.
And if you were to share the first thing that sort of pops into your mind, because I'm putting you on the spot with this question, Can you think back to a time in your life where your Haura, you got a new Haura line? Can you tell us about that, or anything about it that you want to share?
Whoa. There's a bunch. Don't know for sure which one I'm on, but it's 4 or 5. It's like your Haura is a car, and you take out inhabiting that thing on a great expedition, except your car keeps breaking down at the weirdest spots, in the middle of a marriage, in the middle of a job, in the middle of a health crisis. Your car, your thing that's taking you on this exciting journey disappears. And you're walking on the road, and you're walking in the desert, and nobody understands or gives you a ride. And then all of a sudden you're riding in a Jaguar, in another car, and you're so enjoying the ride, and it starts breaking down. That's what life is like. And yes, I can remember. I grew up very, very Catholic. I grew up saying that my first husband, I was marrying him because he was Catholic. I'd never heard of marrying for love. And off we went into this marriage that barely survived 7 to 10 years with 2 kids. And the having to crash through, the expectation from all the family, from all of my friends, from the world, having to crash through and go out alone into the desert walking. So I didn't have money, didn't have a job, hadn't completed my education, had no direction, and had 2 precious little girls that I had holding onto tight and dragging them into my wilderness. I don't know what happened to their souls' journey. They both look fine to me today. But my woundedness and my horror dissolving affected the next generation on what I thought was my journey. Should I have done that? I don't know. But I trust that if it happened, it was the way it should be. Nothing happens for nothing. Everything is something. Everything is something. Learn, grow, watch. Get help.
My question is, can you think of something that you used to think this is the way it is, and then something happened in your life, and now you have a new perspective that is different, that you didn't think you would have?
Like God?
That sounds great.
You want to start at the top? I felt so committed to the God I was taught about. The Christian God. I felt so committed to that when I was in my teens and 20s. I tried to do everything that was asked of me. And in my 20s somewhere, it started fading away. And it started fading with a very popular question at that time we had coffee houses, sort of, they weren't Starbucks, but they sold espresso and had really great hippie bands. And we would have great questions like, does God exist? First time I ever thought of questioning it. And it scared me. Because here's the phrase I was taught: if you lose your faith, it's your fault. You're guilty. So that contrast between struggling to know and terrified of not following those rules. So I became determined that surely I could find out, I'm about 25 to 27 now, that whether or not God existed. I never figured it out, by the way, if you want the end of that story. But I tried. And in that journey, that frightening journey, I got a divorce, I left the church as I knew it, I scared. Because you don't know if you're not going to hell. They said you would. You don't know if it's going to work for you. You don't know. And I found such a ecstatic, blissful connection to a higher oneness that I believe many call God. I call it God. But I had to include terror into certainty. They both had to coexist. And my family didn't approve. They didn't know what to do with me. It was terrifying for them, I'm sure. Nobody got divorced, and nobody went off to live by herself with 2 kids, with no education. I did. I'm glad I did now. Yeah. Yeah. Made it. You will too, by the way. You will too, by the way.
And what was it like to come from this traditional traditional background, and as you evolved into the more open-minded spiritual person, and then started a practice that incorporated things like energy healing and broader subjects?
Well, I spent about 10 or 15 years lying. People would say, "What do you do?" Because I had a degree in counseling psychology and got the degree in it, but I wouldn't get the license. I went off for 8 years, traveling 4 or 5, 6 weeks a year, going to New York and New Jersey to study energy healing and other religions and other methodologies for taking care of ourselves and each other. And I lied. They said, "Where are you going?" I said, "It's a self-improvement workshop." My mother would say, I probably wouldn't say this if she was still alive. My mother would say, "You don't need that." She didn't like it probably because I was changing right before her very eyes. "You're the one that helps other people. You don't need that." I go, "It's because I help other people that I do need that." So I lied. I didn't tell people what I was doing. Anybody would say that, I would say, what do you do? I would say, it's kind of a self-exploration, spiritual model. There's a confusing word for you. Model. Like, what's a model? And then my family and my friends would just sort of go away because I wasn't being a nurse. You didn't want to be a doctor, you can't be a doctor. I have a great story. When I was in high school, we had to take sort of a what are your skills kind of test. And this nun, and just imagine the movies, with this black veil and all that white stuff all around their face, talking to me when I was a senior. And she says, "Well, you're not exactly a secretary, and it doesn't look like, since your skills," she said they were mechanical, I don't know what they meant by that, probably more logical, "just don't know what to tell you. Maybe a teacher or a nurse, but it doesn't show any skills for that." But she said this, "You could always get married." So I did. Then I got unmarried.
What was it like being different than
Yeah, it was, I lied.
you lied?
I sort of still do till you two started this. I'm not lying in this. Why make people uncomfortable? If I know where I'm going, and that goes back to your binary, non-binary question or your family disapproval. Maybe all that disapproval is there for a reason. It was a struggle and difficult to turn my back and go, I'm going in this direction, and nobody understood. One of my sisters said to me one time, I just wish you could have the life that I have. And that's the life I was running away from. And I remember the starkness of the comment, because I didn't want her life so much, and I just decided not to tell her that. And I didn't have to tell her that about me either, that I don't want that. And that freedom to not explain myself, nor lie and go along, is exhilarating. It's exhilarating. So just keep trying things out till you see where you go. And you guys in your 20s, I believe it's the hardest decade there is. Because you're supposed to be figuring out what you want to be and who you're going to marry and where you're going to live. Like, there's no answers to all those questions anymore. Nobody will hire you, really. It's a hard one. 30s are sort of hard too, because you're beginning to wake up a little bit to what it is you don't want, but what is it do you want? But just let me tell you, you're going to love the 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, and 80s. Just call it all adolescence and keep going. You're going to love it.
Mm.
The 40s give you you stop taking yourself so seriously. The 50s, it starts, I want to go in this direction. Now, with medicine and with conscious eating and living, which we didn't have when I was young, now you're living long enough to do all this decades worth of stuff. And you'll have pain and joy, and you just know this is normal, and keep going. It's worth it. I could add this Tibetan Book of Living and Dying. I think, if I'm remembering it correctly, let me say it this way. Eastern religion says your real life can't begin until mid-40s, 45 to 55. Until that point, your soul is just living out old karma, trying to learn lessons. That's why it's so painful. Keep learning about yourself. That's all you need to do. You don't need to know everything. You just use your pain to learn. Use your pain to learn. That's all soul work. It's not you're getting anything right or anything wrong. It's your soul doing what it's programmed to do, which is help you get into your spiritual future or moment. And then things start making sense. And you aren't following the rules that somebody else laid out for you as much. And you feel freer to explore and experiment. Time's not running out. About 45 or 50, it's time to start. Time to start. It's not running out. Keep going.
I love that. Oh,
I know that people need to hear that.
yeah.
I mean, I'm watching my 21-year-old grandson go, what am I going to do? I have one more year of school. I go, Lord, you got so far to go. got so far to go. He thinks he's supposed to be settled
Yes.
and find his own way, and he'll be 22. Like, lots of luck, right?
I remember feeling that, thinking that, or having that pressure. Oh, I'm 22. I'm supposed to know now what I'm going to be doing and what the rest of my life will be like or look like.
I know, at my age, we were such cowards. We just jumped into. And then when I got divorced and that was all in front of me, like, who are you? Are you going to work? Now you have to. I never really worked. And I'm in my 30s. It's like, oh God, do you think guys feel this way at 22? The pressure's on women now too. But I had no mercy for how scared he must have been. I didn't know that. I was scared, but I was more scared about how to cook. How to get the laundry whiter, stuff like that. Scary. Now women are doing that too. And non-binaries, you got your foot in both canoes. Good for you. But don't let it get away from you. Just keep at it.